Look at him, he's so cool.
Before the inclusion of
Last time we had learned about Void Kong, so I thought it fair that this time we should go and check out the OG, Mr. King K. Rool himself. But of course, as per usual, please go and support the OG video. A link to designing for his video will be at the very top of the description, like always.
Red and Blue, Ryu and Ken.
I'm sorry guys, we are playing through Halo, but I have never seen Red and Blue. Should I go back and watch them? I don't know, I felt like it was kind of a thing of the times.
Sonic and Shadow, and Phoenix Wright and Miles Edgeworth, Catherine and...
Hey, looking forward to getting into Ace Attorney. I believe it did win the poll, so we'll be getting to that real soon.
Catherine. Rivalries in games can create some of the deepest connections to characters, as well as great motivators for players to improve, or at least play favorites. Of course, there is a...
Yeah, that is true. It also works very well too when you're trying to learn fighting games. I felt like I've gotten into fighting games and have been able to stay with fighting games because I've always had people around me who were of a similar skill level that I could kind of like measure myself against and try to improve myself against.
Difference between pure antagonism and a rivalry. The characters' goals have to align, and they have to be in direct competition with each other for it. For instance, Waluigi remains a great rival to Luigi, as they're both competing in various sports and dances in order to actually be acknowledged by their peers. Whereas Mario and Wario, well, one loves competition and the other kinda just loves money and praise. Now, not all conflicts necessarily have to come across as rivalries, and while a great antagonist can make for a great rival, it takes a lot of care to make them still feel threatening as a big bad villain if they lower themselves to the hero's level. So it's still shocking to me that Super Smash Bros. Of all series managed to take a purely antagonistic villain and not only keep his evil video game boss qualities, but develop him into a strong foil for his hero in ways that make sense and develop his character. I speak, of course, of
King K. Rool! Yeah!
Hey. Now, obviously, I have seen King K. Rool before, and more so through cultural osmosis than anything, and also that Smash reveal. Wasn't there another reveal earlier that had basically that same setup, but it turned out to not be King K. Rool? Like it was kind of a bait and switch sort of thing? Or maybe within the King K. Rool announcement itself, it was a bait and switch.
The Smash Bros. Series is a bit selective when it comes to representing its characters well. For every bit of Ganondorf exuding raw power, Dedede being an overconfident and mocking doofus, and all of Snake's codex, you get Ganondorf being a tired old man trying to be a race car driver instead of a warlock, Wario being a farty man who only has a couple of moves in common with Mario, a supremely bestial Bowser, and he's a ball! You get it?
Sonic Spinball!
If someone came out of Brawl and thought that Olimar's personality was anything other than carelessly abandons the lives of his plant slaves and cowers behind them, floundering as he uses them, I'd be, well, glad that they figured out that he's a much better character than what was shown. However...
Wait. I've never played a Pikmin game before. What did that say? It has been 26 days since I crashed on this planet. My reflection in the mirror is looking a little gaunt, and to think my wife warned me not to gain too much weight on this vacation. Ha! The thought makes me chortle. She would surely be surprised to see me now. It feels as though it has been many years since I saw her last. I mean, what is this implying? Did my guy just leave all the Pikmin behind? And why do the Pikmin follow him in the first place? Because all I know about that series is he kind of like crash lands on a planet, then these like alien life sort of comes around and helps him.
However, the implementation of King K. Rool into the Smash series was absolutely stellar. Centered around a sumo-based, bulky aesthetic, K. Rool is all about seeing what your opponent has to dish out and powering through with a gut-based offensive. This almost bullying nature is perfect for the cartoonish crocodile, and the sheer force behind his strikes sell the dastardly dictator as a force equal to his apely arch-nemesis. Add in his multiple projectiles, strange disjointed recovery, the S&K, and multiple references to his various appearances, and K. Rool feels like one of the most completely realized characters in the whole Smash roster. Fighting K.
Neat. It's always interesting to see how they adapt certain characters that weren't a part of a fighting game necessarily into fighting games. Like, which moves and how do we keep, like, the identity of that character? How do we expand upon that in a way that makes sense and fits into this game? Especially with how all these characters are connected with each other in their own series. How do we portray that?
Rool has been likened to a video game boss, overwhelming you with a full frontal assault, punishing any mistake you make or attempt to directly challenge him, and requiring you to deftly avoid him and strike at his weaknesses to fell him. And I find that intensely apt. However, what I find most engrossing is what Smash added to the character's, well, character. King K. Rool has never been much of a rival to Donkey Kong. Outside of that one racing game, that one time they played baseball together, and—
Wait, really? I was always under the impression that he was the rival to Donkey Kong, which is why he was such an iconic character, and even somebody like me who didn't know about Donkey Kong knew about him. But I guess maybe it all happened because of Smash? I don't necessarily know the timeline here, but from my understanding from the Void Kong video, it's always kind of just been DK and King K. Rool until Void Kong came along, because nobody else had really reached that sort of heights.
Maybe the multiplayer of DK King of Swing if you're feeling really generous. K. Rool has never really competed against Donkey Kong. He hates the guy for embarrassing him, feeding him to sharks leading to him accidentally blowing up his ancestral home, and being better at dancing than him.
Oh my goodness. The only part of the DK lore I know. Look at him go.
But K. Rool doesn't exactly share DK's desires. The man hates bananas, DK lives for bananas. K. Rool wants to steal bananas to make DK stop living. Never really gets more complex than a desire to kill a guy using produce. But Ultimate adds to King K. Rool more than any other villain in the Smash series. K. Rool doesn't want to be stronger than Donkey Kong. He wants to show DK up and beat him at his own game. K. Rool's MO in Smash is not only to be his glorious self, but to embarrass and destroy Donkey Kong in every conceivable way.
To be honest, these are the kind of villains that I enjoy. The type that could probably maybe beat out the hero if they had just gone their other way, or use their strengths to their own advantage, but they would much rather play on the same field as the hero, just to rub it into their face when they do actually beat them.
Now, the most obvious comparison to make is his running animation. One of the easiest things to port in Smash would have been K. Rool's run from the first Donkey Kong Country. It's a straightforward dash, looks suitably goofy, good reference, has his belly very pronounced, works really well. However, K. Rool instead dashes on all fours, something that he's never done before,
But that's something Donkey Kong does, yeah.
DK's done for decades.
Yeah.
This sets up that really cool shot at the end of the K. Rool trailer, where DK and K. Rool are—
Oh yeah, well, it's the visual storytelling, right? Where you can notice these patterns between these two characters, and so in your mind you start to think up of ways to connect them. This was a similar situation as to back when I was learning about the Elden Ring lore too, where oftentimes you could see certain NPCs using the same move or even like magic of the same color, and then you could kind of connect them somehow. Looking for patterns is what we do as humans, you know? So having this visual storytelling here to add on to the rivalry is just such a great decision.
Charging directly at each other to have a big punch out in the sunset, making the parallels between the two incredibly obvious. But Smash does have this penchant for making its more bestial characters a bit more primal, shall we say. One look at Brawl Bowser can tell you that much. This new run could just be the dev team's design mandate for the DK crew, not an intentional draw. But it just keeps happening all through K. Rool's moveset. Donkey Kong needs to use a smash attack in order to perform a deadly clap? K. Rool can do it in a tilt. Oh, he considers a gigantic punch special? Well, the derangeable despot can unleash one in a smash. He's a world-class boxer after all. DK has a grounded berry attack? Well, looks like
King K. Rool for punch out when?
K. Rool just has to have one too! With the exception of the boxing punch, none of these are moves that K. Rool usually does, or match up with any animations, or even a regal or bestial persona. The only thing they match is Donkey Kong. K. Rool's aerials, however, are the most standout showings of his primate prejudice. His neutral air is the exception to this rule. You could argue that his gut is the only way to match DK's nair, but his belly bulge is more in line with the bullying design of the rest of his punch powers. His other aerials, though, compete directly with the Big Ape. DK's upward headbutt is met with the most try-hard of gravity-defying head slams, K. Rool exceeding DK's power at the cost of incredible end lag. DK has a single big foot stomp down air. K. Rool will have to match it with both feet to show his foes what a real stomp is like. DK's pitiful-looking, slightly busted back air is countered with K. Rool's full drop-kick forward air, both serving as great spacing, combo, and offstage tools.
Yeah, I mean, how many more examples do you have to show to see that they clearly looked at Donkey Kong's design in-game and then use that as inspiration to design King K. Rool's version in Smash?
And of course, there's the dunk. Where
The
DK
dunk
has
master
his
King K.
giant
Rool, let's
fist
go.
forward air, a signature of his since Smash 64 and Donkey Kong 64, K. Rool's back air features a far more menacing, punishing smack into the abyss. Back airs are very often approach and spacing tools, with forward airs commonly being meteor smashes if the character should have one. So K. Rool having these roles reversed feels very deliberate. And for the icing on the banana cream pie, both of K. Rool's spikes, down air and back air, have the exact same startup as Donkey Kong's respective spikes, at 14 and 18 frames respectively. Anything you can do, Rool can do better. And considering that DK's air game has been consistently his best aspect through the Smash franchise, outside of one game's insane grab combo, there's no aspect of DK's kit that would hurt more to show up than off the ground.
Was not expecting to learn so much about Smash. There seems to be a lot of terminology that I still have yet to learn when it comes to fighting games. Or honestly, it might just be something specific to Smash as well, considering the different mechanics that are within the game and it sort of being that platform fighter.
Even K. Rool's sense of style gets in on this action. It's no mistake that in a game where humiliating DK is the most important thing, the aristocratic alligator's final smash is a non-canon game over sequence from Donkey Kong 64. Far more concerned with blowing up Donkey Kong Island than actually killing his opponent. The Smash Ultimate remix of Gangplank Galleon samples a few of the monkey noises from the bonus room song of Donkey Kong Country before.
Actually, I just thought, is the N64 version the only 3D game for Donkey Kong up until Bonanza, or was there at least one in between then and now? I remember Pierre mentioned that to me in a call at some point, but I forgot exactly which version it was. That was the last one that we had.
The drums take over and K. Rool really rises, burying the pitiful, whimpering apes behind him. And then, of course, there's the rap section of the song.
What?
I'm still not completely confident that I can trust these lyrics, but come on. One of the most emblematic elements of Donkey Kong's soundtrack is the dangerously cheesy DK rap. Something that's been remixed in Smash since Melee. And you're going to tell me K. Rool has a rap segment in his main theme that's not designed to prove his lizard lips are more deaf than the monkey's mouth on the mic? Forget about it.
Forget about it. Hey, I really like King K. Rool. And this is almost 100% like my personal bias towards both just funny villains and the fact that I do like lizards a lot. Dragons are my favorite mythical creature. I love lizardmen in fantasy. King K. Rool, he's aight. I wouldn't mind being friends with the guy. Look at him, he's so cool.
Before the inclusion of King K. Rool, the strongest rival dynamic in Smash was between Kirby and King Dedede. Both shared similar movesets, inhale mechanics, had multiple jumps,
that makes
but
sense,
none
yeah.
of the airspeed to use them.
Well, I mean, even in the Kirby series, King Dedede himself specifically trains to use Kirby's techniques to match up with Kirby. Some of them he doesn't do as well, but he really wants to beat Kirby at his own game. Very similar to how King K. Rool is being represented here.
Dedede even had a neat bit of lore where he learned to inflate himself, just like a
exactly.
balloon,
There you go.
by wanting to catch up to Kirby. Their status as the best of frenemies has been well conveyed ever since Triple D showed up on the scene.
Yeah, King Dedede is such a good villain, man. I love his whole arc of being the first bad guy for Kirby to fight, and then slowly over time changing little by little because of Kirby's presence within the story, and his interactions with Kirby and the rest of the gang too. And all of this culminating into that one scene, I think it was in Kirby and the Forgotten Land, I believe the game was called, where King Dedede rushes over to save one of his underlings and sacrifices himself to do so. That was absolutely a Giga Chad move. Of course, afterwards, he did survive, and then he was like, yeah, I did that. And he was acting all high and mighty and going on an ego trip. But that's King Dedede, and that's why he's so fun.
However, while Dedede brings his development as a rival in from his home series, King K. Rool basically has his competitiveness with Donkey Kong invented wholesale for Smash Ultimate. And rather than feel jarring, it feels like a totally natural extension of the character's personality. It fits the narrative.
Well, I don't know, like, before what Smash Ultimate did with King K. Rool, but from what I've learned of from this video, it does feel like a very natural progression, which I hope is the direction that the Donkey Kong series continues to move in, because I think that there is a lot of potential, at least when it comes to the lore and the characters and their connection with each other, making it all much more dynamic, much more intriguing, you know? Which we've kind of been lacking, apparently, in the series. So yeah, this is definitely a step in the right direction, and I'm so glad that Smash Ultimate did this for them.
Narrative of this villain who's been gone for so long, abandoned even in his own series, finally coming back to show that he's superior to his lazy nemesis in every conceivable way. As a kid who unlocked Jigglypuff in Smash 64, saw that there were 3 more characters to unlock, and dreamed that one of them would be King K. Rool, this isn't what I hoped the character to be. This was better. Smash Ultimate creates a wordless narrative for K. Rool through animation and presentation alone. A vicious,
Animation and presentation, creating a wordless narrative. That is really how animation should be. And that's another part of fighting games that I think is really cool. Well, Elden Ring as well, as the example that I brought up earlier in this video, also had that really cool like visual storytelling when it came to the animations that different NPCs used. It's these small little details that I think add up to mean a whole lot more for the player's experience. And I think that's one of the big things that really separates good animation from passable animation, let's say. A similar feeling as to when you're watching an anime and you can tell that it's kind of just, you know, the production company made this because they kind of had to for the season and hopefully it'll make some money. We're just going to have these shots here and these shots here, and they're perfectly okay establishing shots, but they're just okay. They show the characters, what they're doing, where they are, and that's it. And then when you watch a different show where it has a very skilled director behind it, then you can see like a lot more cinematography happening, a lot more thought was put into, clearly a lot more thought was put into certain shots and stuff like that. Very interesting and unique angles and neat transitions between each shot. That's what it feels like to me when you try to like expand upon the difference between good and okay animation.
Cocksure, showboating aura of dominance coming from the Croc and proving why he deserves to be there. And yeah, he's totally going to get cut from the next Smash if it downsizes the cast. But that almost doesn't matter, because this design is more than just a love letter to Donkey Kong Country. It's something that furthers the character, that pits him in direct contrast to Donkey Kong, and makes him showing up in another game all the easier and all the more exciting. I feel like K. Rool has gained a lot of fans with his appearance in Smash. And if he weren't so gleefully and insanely set on being the cooler DK in some aspects, I don't think he'd come across as so likable. So, I really gotta thank the Smash team here for doing my boy justice, and giving me more than what I wanted. They knew how to evolve the Crocodilian Captain. They knew just when and how to design for Rivalry.
Awesome. Actually, I just noticed, yeah, it does say Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's King K. Rool. To be honest with you guys, all I saw was King K. Rool and designing for Rivalry, and then I was like, hell yeah, I need to learn about this. Did not even realize. I think this is really a good showcase of a really well-adapted character into a fighting game. We didn't just do a one-to-one copy, we put a lot more thought into it to expand upon the character, to tell more than what words can tell. But yeah, dudes, that's gonna be it for me today. Thank you guys so much for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.